The Kenise and Marc Show. The Kenise and Marc Show. Make sure you tune into the Kenise and Marc Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Kenise and Marc Show. I am Kenise.
I am Marc.
And we're excited to have you guys here with us again for another great episode. And today, there's a topic that we're going to talk about that, for some younger couples that are planning on getting married, or you're dating and eventually you want to get married one day, but discussions to have before marriage. So you've met the right person now and you're like googly eyes over the person and you're so excited to one day he's going to pop the question or she's going to say yes when you pop the question. There's some very important things that you should discuss before. And of course, I think like all of our topics, we can go on, but we wanted to highlight a few things about what should be discussed before your marriage. Do you think that conversations, Marc, should be had before marriage?
Well, absolutely. I mean, who wants to walk into something blindly, and not knowing what to expect? It goes back to what we've been saying in all the shows, communication.
Right.
Get to know your partner, find out what he or she wants, what the goals are, what your non-interests are, all of that.
So what would be kind of your first thing that you would want to discuss if you're ready to get into marriage with somebody? What's the first thing that you want to have a discussion with that person before you put that ring on the finger?
What's the first thing? Do you love me?
Yes, I do. I do love you.
Because, unfortunately, some people just get into marriage. And again, I always hate to be going between men and women. Mm-hmm. But a lot of women, they just want to be married for different reasons. Hey, girl, look.
They want the whole wedding thing.
Yeah, and it's like they want to show off to their peers or, as... Darren Greggs mentioned in our other show that women want security. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and that's understandable. So, there's different reasons, but then some unfortunately want to, if they know you have a nice bank account, let me grab a hold of him because it might not get any better than this.
Right.
So you have to decipher as to what the motives are. If this is a genuine person that I want to make this move towards, or if this is someone just in it for other reasons.
I had a friend who told me that she went out on a date with a guy. He came to pick her up in the 7 Series BMW. So of course she was like, whoa, this is nice. He paid for dinner and all of this stuff. And then, a couple of dates later, they decided that they would have like some cocktails or whatever at his home. So he takes her to his home and she was like, oh my gosh, it was a studio apartment in a basement. There's nothing wrong with living in a basement, but literally he had just a bed, a bathroom, and a sink and a refrigerator. And she found out that he wasn't working. He had bought the car years ago. And he was laid off. He wasn't working or anything like that. He hadn't worked for a long time. And he wasn't even motivated to work. But he was driving a 7 Series BMW. So, do you love me? So, Marc, I think that's a good part. I think the first thing I would ask, I would want to know, too, if I'm getting into a marriage now, we're thinking about marriage, is about past relationships. And I have to be very cautious with myself that that's something that I like to ask first and foremost, kind of maybe on a first date. And I'm learning that you shouldn't ask about past relationships on your first date. But I want to get everything like,
let's just get past that right now. Right now,
right, exactly.
We're talking about getting into marriage. So, you talked about that already. You discussed that.
Okay, so you're saying that, but I want to make sure that before I get a ring on my finger, that I'm making sure that all of your past relationships, like you're over the hurt. You're over the pain, and I'm over the hurt. I'm over any type of pain that I've gone through because I don't want to hold you accountable to
That's very important, and that happens a lot. I have to suffer because of what somebody else did.
Right.
So yeah, you definitely and again, Darren Greggs addressed
Yeah,
that.
he sure did.
The last show.
He sure did.
Yeah, we need to have him back.
We sure do.
Yeah.
He was great. He was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. If you missed that episode, you need to check out the Darren Greggs episode because he was a lot of fun. I think the next one that I would ask is trust. Trust is so important for me. Going back to your point about a woman wants to feel secure and feeling safe. And one way I think that we feel secure and safe is that we can trust our man. What do you think?
Yes, but Kenise, honestly, while these are issues that should have been dealt with during the dating part. Mm-hmm. If you're approaching marriage, you should know by now if you trust that person. Now you should know by now of the past hurts and the past relationships. Okay, so we're getting ready to get into an area that neither one of us experienced with each other.
Right.
So we have to get to the nitty-gritty issues.
Right.
If we're gonna, we should know where our finances are going. We should know, just all of these things. We should know I should know what her family's like. She should know what my family's like. All of that. So, and the main, I guess, challenges are, if we're gonna be married, so now we'll be doing something that we haven't done. We're living together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because,
are you messy? Are you clean?
Yeah, well, that's some of the little parts, but just major issues, trust is a part of it. I do admit, but we should have handled that already in the dating part of it.
But I think before I want to ring on my finger, I want to make sure that the person trusts me. I know we were handling it, but if I've dealt with past relationships that were not very good, or he's dealt with past relationships that are not very good, I want to make sure that I confirm that with him to say, listen, I love you. Back to, do you love me for me? Do you just love me, or do you just want this ring on your finger? I want to reassure him that I love you and I want to be with you. It's not this ring. It's not about, this, us just having children together and living, keeping up with the Joneses. I want to be able to know that I love you wholeheartedly, and I see futuristically us living together. Our goals are the same.
No matter what.
No matter
That's
what.
Important. So if I wind up in a wheelchair,
ooh.
Will you wheel me to the organ?
I would. I did tell you that. I would wheel you to the organ. You can call me at any time, Mark, and I will wheel you down to the organ.
Funny.
I
It's
would.
all of that. Because things change physically, things change, people lose jobs, and sometimes when some people can't handle the pressure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When life takes a left turn, that's one of the things you really have to discuss about marriage. Okay, things are fine, okay now.
Right.
But what's going to happen 10 years from now when things have totally went left? Are you going to stick it out, or are you going to run back home?
I think it takes a very strong person, whether male or female, to be able to confront that. I know
but that has to be thought about.
I agree.
You got to talk about that.
Very good point.
You have to talk about that.
But somebody can lie about it. And it's just oh yeah, I'll wheel you down to the organ, Mark. You're going to wheel me down to the organ? I'll wheel you down to the organ. My parents have friends, another pastor lives down in Oklahoma and been married for many years, and then his wife woke up one day and boom, she was blind. One day, just woke up, couldn't see a single thing. And I've been to several conferences and stuff where, he keynote speaker and stuff, and I've always seen how he treated his wife, because he managed to have a mega church down in Oklahoma, so a lot of things stopped because his entire life changed. But I saw how this man, Mark, treated this woman, to the T. Served her, made sure that she was well taken care, loved her. Love her. Now she's able to, she did a few surgeries and whatever. She's able to see partially now. She's not fully blind. But I think that is so important because, maybe somebody else may have walked out on her.
Right. And even not only that, with children, what if something happens to one of your kids? Can you handle the pressure?
Right.
Of a child possibly being deformed in some way, or anything. Can you because the ideal birth of a child is everything goes perfectly well, and the child is healthy, has all his leg, the limbs and everything, can see, can hear. But what if something goes wrong? Right. Can you handle it? And you have to be committed to that child. You can't just send that child back or just give it a child.
Ship it back.
This is your child. You know? So all of these things have to be discussed.
Yes. So I think there are three important things because there's a lot of things that could be discussed. Is one, goals. So you're talking throughout your dating time, but at some point before you get into marriage, you guys want to talk about what are your goals? What are my goals? What do I see myself in the future? Where do you see yourself in the future? So, I mean, do you think that's an important topic to discuss in regards to
Yeah, well, I think
direction?
goals is something I think would come up while you're dating as well. Because that's part of getting to know that person. You go out to dinner. I mean, these are things you talk about. Especially if you're going out on a few dates and you're really into that person and they're into you, then talk about the possibility. We're not yet talking about marriage, but the conversations is probably leading that way. So yeah, you talk about goals. What do you want to do? What career are you in? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? All of that. So I think that comes. A lot of that should come with the dating part of the relationship. So when it's time for the marriage, you basically kind of know that person very well.
The Kenise and Marc Show. The Kenise and Marc Show. Make sure you tune into the Kenise and Marc Show. Kenise and Marc.
So we were talking about discussions that you should have before you enter into some sort of serious relationship or marriage, preferably marriage. So we talked about a few other things before we went to commercial, and we have three more that we want to touch on. I think one is children. I know a bunch of individuals, and I think my dad said the other day in service that our generation now, kind of with the millennials, they're not looking to have children. Everyone is kind of like, I have my dog, I have my cat, I really don't want kids. I know a lot of people that don't want kids, both females and males. But I also know people, Mark, who during their dating, they discuss it, and the person is just like, oh, well, we'll think about it. We'll see where we are 5 years from now financially, if we're buying a house, and then they get to that place, and then the person's like, nope, don't want to have kids, but they're already in the marriage.
I personally don't believe in that. I just think that when a person tells you, well, we'll see about having children, I think you got to look at that response. And in my opinion, that's the response of someone who really doesn't want children. Because there's nothing to see about that. Either you do or you don't. There's no middle ground with that.
So you're saying if the person is a little leery, you should take that as a red flag?
Yeah, and address it right then and there, and then
Right.
maybe come back to it another couple weeks later, and the response is still the same. Then you have to make a decision. It's like, look, I want to have children,
Right.
and if you don't, then as much as I care for you, we should probably just go our separate ways. Because the longer this goes on, the more painful it's going to be. Because unless a miracle happens, that person's probably not gonna. There's a nice way, an easy way of letting you down, saying, well, we'll talk about it once we get married.
Right.
What?
It's not a topic that you're going to talk about after.
Yeah, it's not.
And, some women and maybe men think that maybe they can change the person. Okay, well, maybe when we get married and he plays with my niece or my nephew, that maybe I could get to groove him into the fact that he wants to have children one day.
That's just one of the biggest mistakes anybody can make, is thinking that you could change someone.
True.
There are some people who unfortunately are on the DL, as they call. They pretend to have feelings for you, but yet they have feelings for same sex.
Yes. Yeah, we
That's
talked
another
about
thing.
that.
And
Yes.
some people go into denial. It's like, well, he hasn't had a taste of me. I'm gonna say, okay. And then, that's something you cannot change.
Yes.
That's something on the inside that person has embraced, and I don't care how beautiful and wonderful you think you are, it's just not going to change anything. So it's the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
A great point. Intimacy, Mark. So do you think that you should discuss, well, I guess let's talk about the physical aspect. I think someone had told me that, they asked me the question, do you feel that, we should talk about things that we like in the bedroom before we get married. So when you're not shocked, I'm over exaggerating when I said you're not shocked when you go into the bedroom on your wedding night and then this person has chains and whips and like leather and all of these things. Like, so that's like on the natural side. I do feel you should have a conversation.
Definitely.
What do you think?
Yeah, should have a conversation. It kind of goes back to something our friend Darren Griggs mentioned in the other show. You know, getting to know your partner, you know, thoroughly. So there are no surprises. So you know what, you know, they like, what they don't like. There's something wrong with discussing that.
Yeah, because I don't want chains and like leather and stuff and bondage. That whole bondage thing. I know somebody who knows somebody else when they got married. He had like an entire bondage seller that she was not even aware of. So after they got married, then he introduced her to bondage, which was like, okay, well, needless to say, their marriage did not work out. But intimacy, you want to discuss it. And a biggie here that before we end our show is discussing finances. Because I can't count how many marriages break up or have so much contention over money.
Yes, I remember when I was married, that one issue that came up. See, I was raised where, you know, the man, the husband takes care of the home. And I had to open my eyes to the fact that even though I was the breadwinner and my wife, you know, was home with the children, eventually she wanted to get back out in the workforce. So my attitude was like, well, you know, I pay the bills, you know, and then that kind of became an issue. But then I had to like check myself. I'm like, wait a minute, you know, she has every right to get out there and do her thing as much as I do. So I had to kind of like, you know, swallow my pride a little bit and say, you know, I can still do what I'm doing, but let her do what she's doing. Right. You know, and then you have couples who feel like, okay, I pay 50% of the bills and you pay 50%.
Right.
You know, everybody has their different beliefs. You know, me personally, I take pride in taking care of my home. Yes. Taking care of my family. So if you have a career and you have a job and you're pulling a paycheck, that's just extra, you know. But I feel it's my sole responsibility as the husband, as the priest of the home, that I take care of this home, all the expenses. Now, sometimes that can work, and other times it can't. And if it cannot, then you can discuss that. Right. But you know, I get a little funny feeling. I feel funny when I hear a couple say, well, you know, this is 50%. You pay half, and I pay. I was like, no. You know, so, I just don't. It never sat well with me. But everybody's different. So do you like what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine, and what's both of ours is both of ours? Are you a believer in that? Yeah, I think. I mean, we're sharing everything else. Why, you know, why would we start separating, you know, material things? And I just, that to me, that's a hole for the enemy to come in and cause division. Right. I was contacted by a viewer 2-3 weeks ago who saw our first couple of episodes. So when she contacted me, she told me that she's been married for 20-something years, childhood sweetheart, all of that, so have kids. She, both of them make a really great salary, but she recently got a promotion, and she's making significantly more than him. And he decided to start a very large argument because they both right now do 50-50 on the mortgage, on utilities and stuff. He wanted her to put more money in because she was making more money now. And so they started arguing about it because she's like, well, like we're still saving this. The money is good. The extra money is going into our savings account. Why do you feel if their mortgage is $1,000, he wants her to pay like $750 and he only pays the other portion of it, whereas right now it's like $500. So I told her I would bring it up on the show and get Marc's wonderful wise words on this. I mean, do you feel that she should pay a higher amount for that $1,000 mortgage? Only if it's a struggle for him to do what he's doing. It's not, because he's making the same salary. So then to me that's a dumb argument, isn't it? You know, and if it's already going, if the money's already going towards their own, both of their savings and to do things for the home, then it's not like she's spending it on something else. So if it's going right back towards both of them,
right,
why would that be an argument?
Right.
So that's, to me, that's a petty argument.
Right. I know relationships that are really successful also, where, like you said, Mark, the guy pays everything, pays all of the bills. He wants to be the provider, the sole provider. And some women may not be happy with that. I get that. But there are men who do that. My personal belief is that if you're both working, then you have one bank account that goes with, paying utilities, groceries, and all of that stuff that you unite your money towards. You guys come up with a common number every month. But I think also you need to have your own savings account, and I need to, because if I want to buy you something and we have one savings, then you're like, Kenise, why did you pull out $100 from the account? What am I gonna? I mean, I wanted to buy you, you something, and I also feel you should be able to have your own money, and I should be able to have my own money.
Right.
Another person who also saw our show, it's called, I know her, but she has contacted me and said, I recently found out that my husband is he's taking some portions of his paycheck and he's putting it to a separate account, and she's not aware of it. And she caught it by chance. And I was like, so she was like, what should I do? I'm like, what do you mean? Take money out of your paycheck and put it in
Could have
another.
addressed it. I mean,
Well, she did. And he,
why did he do that?
he lied. He said it's something that, and she has all the facts, but she doesn't want him to know that she did her research, and he has like a good $35,000 in there. He's been doing it, but he told her that he got a salary cut at work. So when she contacted me and she was like, I know you're doing this show on relationships, and she lives down in Georgia. My sister introduced her to the show, and she was like, I thought I could ask, kind of what your thoughts are. And I was like, well, I will bring it up on the show. So I thought this would be a good show. Probably bring it up. So I told her, well, you need to bring it up to his attention, and she did. And she contacted me again, and he denied it. He said, I'm not doing, you're crazy. You've lost your mind. And they have a great marriage, according to her.
But why didn't she just, the best way to really address something like that, put it in black and white.
Yeah, I think she's a little nervous to do. I think she's probably nervous to do that because of maybe what the ramifications are going to be or what the real truth.
But she's already brought it up, so
Yeah.
it's like you're already in it now, and then it's something, look, if she stumbled across this, you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Sweeping it under the rug is not going to help.
It's not going to help at all. And that's what I told her. I told her sweeping it under the rug is definitely not going to help her with this. But I think overall finances is a huge deal breaker in marriages. Yeah. Also. A very huge deal breaker because, like you said, if the other person gets ill, are you able to, are you going to wheel them down to the organ? The same, I think, goes for if the person loses their job and now you're the sole breadwinner as the other person is looking for a job, it becomes really difficult and very challenging what happens in the relationship. So those are really important things to discuss.
Absolutely.
Before you actually get into marriage. So we hope that this has been helpful for you guys, and we really are happy that you guys have joined us. Please do like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, as always, we love to hear your suggestions, your thoughts, and any other topics that you would like us to discuss. We have some fun topics coming up. So we look forward to having you guys join the show. I'm Kenise.
I'm Marc.
It's all about relationships.
Peace.